Okay, good evening once more. I think we'll go right into the class. Our facilitator is already in class. You're welcome to today's class. Just a few housekeeping. Remember to sign in with your name and party as you come in. And this is the last weekend, I guess, in the 14th cohort. And as we conclude, please, I thought we'll be in a better behavior of keeping to time, but I can see our class is still empty. So remember to sign in. My name is Silas Agaldo. I'll be the moderator for today. Our facilitator is already in class, and I'm going to just read her bio and hand over the class to her. Aisat Olibimpe Agbaje Okunade is a young and dynamic advocate for social equality. She is committed to finding sustainable solutions to social inequalities through economic development.
Sorry, we can't hear you well. Inclusion. Your voice is a bit low.
Okay, is it my voice or the network?
I actually can hear him clearly here. I can hear Silas very clearly from here.
Okay, maybe it's mine then.
Okay, so let me start again. Okay, Asisat Olabimpe Agbaje Okunade is a young and dynamic advocate for social equality. She is committed to finding sustainable solutions to social inequalities through economic development and social inclusion. She began her career in the year 2014 as a legal and administrative assistant at Kimberley Wayne and Diamond Solicitors in London. In 2015, she joined the Hyde Group in London as a project officer, then was the outreach associate for inclusion at NCS The Challenge in Waterloo, London, creating successful long-term relationships with local authorities and community organizations. Aisat is an advocate for social change. She believes that it is even more crucial for changes to happen from within institutions rather than through constant external pressure, thereby ensuring there are individuals within the system who represent those ideals. This has driven her to pursue a career in public service. Aisat has served as a special assistant to the governor of Kaduna State and as a senior special assistant for development partnerships and economic planning to the governor of Lagos State. She currently serves on the board as the executive secretary of the Lateef Jakande Leadership Academy, a program that aims to develop skills, increase awareness, and cultivate a nuanced perspective among young people to address challenges in various fields, including the public sector. Aisat holds a first degree in law, a postgraduate degree in international relations and democratic politics, and professional certifications in government from Harvard Extension School, scholarly. Research transcontinental sustainability strategies from the University of Cambridge and policy and strategic studies from NIPS, among other prestigious institutions. In 2015, she was named one of the youngest beneficiaries of the Princess Trust Enterprise Grant Monitoring and Support Program, which was led by King Charles. Aisat's research on the role of women in modern radicalization has been studied and discussed at prestigious institutions, including the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. She authored the viral article titled Nigeria's Laws Are Skewed Against Women, which illuminates the regressive laws that Nigerian women face daily. She is also a co-author of the book titled Grooming Effective Public Servants, a Tambari Perspective, the book highlights the current challenges facing the Nigerian public service and provides effective strategies for overcoming and managing them to achieve success. Aisat enjoys contributing to the community by volunteering. She funded and currently manages the AA Initiative, a non-profit organization that focuses on supporting and reintegrating orphans and vulnerable children, OVC, throughout Nigeria. To date, the non-profit organization has provided assistance to over 5,000 orphans and vulnerable children. She is driven by the quote, "I come as one, but I represent 10,000." She believes that when she walks into a room, she is not just representing herself, but also those who have fought the good fight before her, those who are currently fighting alongside her, and those who will come after her. Sisat, you're welcome to class. I'll hand over the class to you today, and we'll take questions after your lecture. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Silat. It's Aisha, but it's okay. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, Aisha.
Sorry.
Yes, thank you so much for it's okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Mrs. Aisha, it's so good to have you on behalf of the Electoral College. You're welcome, and we hope to have a wonderful evening with you this evening.
Absolutely. I look forward to it as well. Thank you so much for having me here, and good afternoon to the class. I think it's still afternoon, right? So good evening to the class. Thank you so much for having me here. I hope this will be a good use of your time. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Hi, everyone. The class is rather quiet.
Okay, yes, they actually don't have the permission to unmute except when they want to ask a question.
Sure, that's
I could ask them to unmute if you want.
It's fine. I guess we can do that when questions do come up.
Okay.
And everything.
Right.
But if I do break up at any point, let me.
Sure, I will.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, Lisa. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'm not sure, Lisa, how many minutes do I have? Again.
Okay, the duration of the class is 2 hours max.
Okay.
But we usually leave time for questions. So for the presentation, you could do maybe 45 minutes, an hour, and then we'll give room for questions.
Sure, that's perfect. Thank you. Okay, so let's go. So I was sent, by the way, well done, Electoral College. Just amazing work that you guys are doing. And I know it's bearing so much fruit. So well done for all the time that you put into this and all the work that goes into it. It's really commendable. Thank you so much. It's always nice when people live a life of service and you're literally reflecting what sort of world you would like to see, your representation of that. So thank you so much. So I was sent this topic, leadership more than a concept. To be honest with you, I didn't know what it meant. So I was literally, I know Lisa is sharing the screen, so she will just move to the next slide when I'm ready. So it was literally something that I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do here? Or how much justice can I do to this sort of discussion to a large extent? And I had to understand what I had to sort of just get some help as well to really just understand what it is I'm saying here. So it's not a waste of your time, and neither it is of mine. And we all can go leave this discussion with really memorable thoughts and really chuffed that impact is happening. So let's start. Leadership more than a concept. So please move on to the next slide for me. Can you just give me a minute? I'm just also, because your screen is rather small, so it looks like I'm going to have to also project on what is showing. It's really tiny. So it's like I would have to project on my own my other system as well. I thought it would show more than this, so just give me a second whilst I do that. Sorry, I wear I have really bad eyes, but I've made it a point not to wear glasses, and I'm not sure why. May God help me there, but yeah. But got it. So it's here now. So I'm just projecting elsewhere. Perfect, I'm ready now. So yes, I'm ready. So leadership more than a concept. So what is leadership? I think leadership means, as Silas said, I currently head the Latif Jakonde Leadership Academy, right? And leadership means a lot to me. It has a lot of meaning to me. But the ones that really stick out the most is the one I can't really put in a theoretical terminology, but I can also put in sort of a practical sense, which is it's you can't be a leader without being a follower. So you must leadership and followership work hand in hand. And also the other one that sticks to me in a practical sense a lot is the part of we're all leaders in one way or the other. And it literally starts from home. It could be from home, it could be from work, it could be from family, you know, even in the culture where culturally we say, oh, the men lead their home. That's again another leadership role right there. So leadership is not necessarily this grandeur, big titled position. It's actually you right now, from where you are, where you start from right now, what you're doing right now. That's really where leadership stems from. Someone is watching you in one capacity or the other. Someone is looking up to you one way or the other. And it's like, what are you projecting? You know, what are you projecting? What values or ideals are you pushing across to them? And what representation, what do you represent as a matter of fact? Those are the real questions. And ultimately, we're all in that position right now, from home, from family life, from even our social life. Some of us are leaders of a social group, you know, and I was watching Ojude Oba and the thing, and you could see some people with the fans of Iyalode, Iya. Those are leaders, right? You're taking up one leadership role or the other. So the question is, what are you doing in those roles? What are you doing with those little influence? So anyway, back to the topic. So we often discuss, obviously, leadership with traits and styles and outcomes. But like I said, it's way beyond that. It's more of who you are, what you're doing, and what you represent. And I know that this topic is supposed to emphasize on the leadership, how leadership transcends simple definitions and theoretical frameworks. And I'm going to go deep into, the pragmatic aspect of things and the practical frameworks of things, because when it comes to leadership, I'm a theorist though, but when it comes to leadership, there's a practicalized sense of it. So please go to the next slide for me. Hi, Lisa, are you there? Good stuff. So the importance of understanding leadership beyond the theoretical framework, I've already said that I'm not going to go into the theoretical aspect because I need to bring it home to who we are as a people and what we are doing as a people. So it's very important to understand that leadership is beyond theoretical frameworks, and it's very crucial. So I'm going to state 6 reasons as to why they are crucial. So please help me move to the next one. So it's for practical application, which is what I've mentioned, there must be a pragmatic approach to things. And there's not a rule book for leadership. So people like Lee Kuan Yew, they didn't have a rule book. They had a vision. And ultimately, that's the tool you need in essence. So not necessarily a theory or academic sort of perspective or prism towards it, So there's a practical application of it. There's a human element of it, which again falls into the practical application. There's a context of it. There's you must have context and contents, and how you apply your vision is based on what context you have, and what works in another country doesn't necessarily work in Nigeria, because again, context differs. You have the innovation, adaptability sense of it. You have the ethical sense of it and the inclusive practices. You have this sustainability and responsibility of it. So with the practical sense, again, I've talked about the pragmatic approach, the real world leadership, which involves dynamic, complex situations, and it's also showing flexibility. There's a myth about leadership. The myth they don't tell you about leadership is that once you enter a leadership role, you don't get to sleep, right? Everybody's problems have become yours, right? So now if I'm taking, I lead a certain amount of, a certain
Is it just me? Oh, we can't hear her.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, sorry, I'm not sure what happened there. So there's a practical element of it. So I was saying that obviously leading people would mean that their problems become yours. So I can lead a team of 50 people today, and then I find that everybody has a different request. So I even just had a practical example was a staff of mine today, unfortunately, his daughter had an accident and he lost his phone, so his wife couldn't get in touch with him. And thankfully she's okay, by the way. The little girl's okay. His wife found my card in his bag and then calls me saying, please, my daughter, they want to amputate her leg, which is not the case, but she was obviously overreacting because she was very fearful. Now, whatever I'm doing, I've literally dropped it, right? To attend to help my staff get him home so he can be with his family. So you find that you have to be very flexible. Everybody's problem has become yours, right? And that's the myth of it. It's like parenting, and it just means obviously you spend less hours with them, but it's parenting basically. So that's really the practical application of it. So you have the obviously human element, which is about building relationships, motivating people, influencing. So I don't think there's anything like leadership without impact. There's influence, but you can influence people for bad reasons and you can influence people for good reasons. But impact can never be underestimated. And it's so crucial. So from my standpoint, I evaluate what I am like as a leader based on how much impact I'm having, or how much impact I have necessarily. And I go back every day reflecting, saying, okay, what have we achieved today? What's the positivity of today? What impact have we left today? And because it's one thing to have influence, it's one thing to have power, but it's one thing to use them for impact. So for me, that's the human element of it. So I've talked about the context-specific solutions. Again, it differs. What works for A doesn't necessarily work for B. What works for C doesn't work for Z. There's a context perspective to it. Please, next slide. There's also an innovation and adaptability perspective to it. Obviously, how great you are as a leader is depending on what systems you create or what systems what systems you bring people into. And in our own climb, it's it's pretty difficult, right? But it can be done. So how innovative are you? Do you stick with the status quo? And I'm in government, so obviously I'm very familiar with, we don't do things, this is the way we do things. We don't do things like that. There's a cultural barrier, right? How are you breaking those barriers? How are you changing what is the status quo, what it currently is, to what it should be? And what I find in this process, particularly with innovation, is that, or what I think Nigerians, what I think is the hardest thing about being in government is you're actually working with minds. You're trying to change minds, and changing people's minds is probably one of the biggest things. It's very easy to look outwards, but it's always hard to look inwards. And then it's not possible to change people's minds. And then you can only just do what you can do. And this is where innovation and adaptability, for me, it's even one of the toughest things, because you have to find people that buy into that vision. So there's the ethical and inclusive practices. That one is a no-brainer for me. I always say to our fellows, our fellowship would literally tell you who you are as a leader. No, it won't tell you who you are as a leader, but it will tell you who you should not be. Also, I say that leadership is not black and white, it's gray, right? But when it comes to integrity, your morals, what you stand for, that by all means is black and white. So I say it's not black and white, leadership is not black and white because of context, right? Context comes in. It cannot be black and white. So what works in the United Kingdom might not work there, right? Their processes of procuring things might not necessarily work in the Nigerian process of procuring things, because there's a bit of culture, right? So number 6, sustainability and responsibility. So that's another crucial part. You find that they all sort of interlink with each other. Number 4 with number 6, they sort of intertwine with each other. You can't really leave a lot of these things without the other. But ultimately, to be an effective and effectual leader, these are the 6 things you must take into cognizance, and you must now evaluate, saying, okay, does this work for me? And also, what I find also works is having those really reflective moments of who you are, and it helps you scale through. So please, next slide, please, Lisa. So ultimately, by moving beyond the theoretical frameworks, you can effectively, navigate the complexities of your roles and obviously ultimately inspire sustainability. Like I said, those 6 things are very crucial. Now, let's now go into, those are the theoretical aspect. Let's go into, let's be sentimental a bit. You know, what is leadership as well? So I'm sure we have, I think also Silas read out a quote that says, which I really like, I bet where I adore it. I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. So basically for me, that ultimately means I'm walking into a room. I'm not just representing me. You know, I also say this to the young people at our offices that, you know, young people have like a stigma of, these people are young. They are, you know, they're exuberant. They're this, they're that. What you're actually doing in my workplace or what you're doing in the office is going to represent what other young people represent as well, ultimately, or how others, possibly employers, want to employ more young people. So even young people, so if you mess up as a young person, just know that even though they are targeting the specifics of how you messed up, they are saying they are bringing in age, they are bringing in the context of gender, they are bringing in the context of gender, of ethnicity, of race. Those things always find their way through. Even when people are dealing with the specifics of what you did wrong, and it's individualized though, but we always find our way to put the problems together to one certain group of people. So I still say it, that's the reality of our world. So when you're young people and you're in a certain workspace, just know that you're not even just there to represent your name or to represent your ancestral line, but you're actually there to represent other young people, to show that young people actually deserve to lead. Young people need to lead. You cannot say, I say that young people are, you know, 100, how does it go? Young people are 50% of current world population, but they are 100% of the future, right? I say again, 50% of the future of the current world population, but 100% of the future. So eventually, it's young people that will take over. So marginalizing and stigmatization, it's not necessarily going to push away the reality that young people are going to the next level, right? So eventually, when you are doing anything, it's not just your name, it's not just your race, but also a representation of a certain group of people that you probably do not know, or for God knows what, you don't even know the amount of or how many they are. That's why it's important to carry oneself really well. So that's for me, what leadership looks like to me in all the sentimental sense of it. I've constantly touched on representation. But anyway, let's make it fun. So you have quotes like I love quotes, by the way. So you have quotes from John C. Maxwell that talks about leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Again, remember I said it even before I got there, right? Influence and impact. Impact. It cannot be overstated, you know, the importance of leadership and impact together. You know, so you have Peter Drucker. I'm sure we all know John Maxwell. So you have Peter Drucker that says the only definition of a leader is someone who has followers. I don't necessarily agree with this, but I wanted to put it there. I left it there so you all know also that it's not everything that makes sense. But I don't necessarily agree with this but I do also believe that leadership, in order to be a good leader, you must also have experience being a good follower. It's so important. You can't necessarily leave it out of the picture, because that also helps you be a good leader, because ultimately it's following that you follow that you'll be like, I don't know what sort of leader I will be, but I know what sort of leader I do not want to be, because you've seen how your boss does it, whether you like it or not, whether you like the way they do it or the way they do not do it, right? You've picked up the signs of, I'm not going to do things that way when I'm governor. You know, I've made several jokes with Mr. Governor, and he would be like, and I'll be like, and he'll be like, that's the way I'll do it when, he'll be like, that's the way I'm doing it when I'm governor. Now that he's governor. But me, when I'm governor, I can do it my own different way. I can go a different route. So they, it works differently for people. But however, followership is what gives you that insight. It's what gives you that 360 perspective, of what you want to be and how you want to be. And followership obviously then falls on the mentorship, falls on the staffing, under, so many other things. So Warren Bennett says, leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. Of course, what you need, the only instrument you need for leadership for me, is vision, right? If you have vision, you're able to drive people to the next level as much as possible. So please, next slide for me. I love Nelson Mandela, by the way, but I won't read it out to you. I'm sure you've read it. So leadership is the art to inspire others to dream more, learn more, become more, guiding them with a vision, integrity, and empathy towards shared goals. I hope that makes sense. Next, please. And there's one thing that's missing there: selflessness. Leadership comes with selflessness. So please note that, selflessness. So now let's bring it on. So the challenges and opportunities of the Nigerian leadership landscape. Next, please. So what are our obvious challenges? I know you guys are muted, but maybe we'll talk about that in the comments, in the question and answers later. So what are our obvious challenges? Corruption, ethnic, religious divides. So we know our diversity lines. I used to call them fault lines, and I remember someone told me that they're not fault lines because they are actually very good things. We just don't know how to, to use them. So for Latin Jaconde Fellows, right, we're recruiting for the next set of the fellowship. And part of it was they had to write about an essay. They had to write an essay about diversity, fault lines, and all that. And I remember I was reading one particular essay. It says that the person started with, edikaikon soup is only sweet when you mix it with certain things, the salt, the pepper, the palm oil, the seafood, the snail, the this, the that. That's when you make a really good edikaikon soup. You will not eat edikaikon soup if it's not with all this ambience, this really beautiful, exquisite extras, right? And that's what diversity is basically. And I really enjoyed that sort of metaphorical approach to it, because that's really what it is. It's so beautiful. The different perspective, the different languages, different cultures. It's extremely beautiful. But what I've realized that gets us, and I learned this from actually a mentee of mine. That's where I learned it from. It's fear. Fear of the unknown is what makes us push what we don't understand away to one side. And whereas this thing would actually lift us out of everything, it will take us beyond and above if we just understand it. Sometimes have you met people with talents and they don't know how to use their talents, and their talents waste away? So that's exactly the case with Nigeria right now in terms of our perspective towards ethnicity and religious divides. Right. And I like to always give the London as a really good example for a major space in the world with so much diversity. So you have Nigerians there, you have Pakistanis, you have Indians, you have Chinese, London is like the central space for so many people of color, diversity, Vietnamese, right? And what it's done is it's amplifying those differences, right? Nobody's above it. It's amplifying those differences and then pushing itself into where it's supposed to, where it really should be, as a city. And yeah, so there's the economic inequality. Of course, we understand that and that disparity. But for me, right, I always say that you can't have economic liberation when corruption is the list of the challenges for me, to be honest, right? You can't have, it's really the list, because at the end of the day, if we talk about corruption, it's your brother that is probably in that position. It's your sister that's probably in that position. So again, it starts from the home for me, right? What do we understand by being our brother's keepers? What do we understand by patriotism? Because if we understand patriotism and national integration, we would love Nigeria so much that all these excesses will not be a thing. But because we've not done the foundational work, which is why, you know, all these smaller issues tend to stick out, because there's corruption in London. There's corruption in a lot of places. Humans will be humans, but what are we doing differently? Why is it not as outspoken, in other climes? Because they've done the most important work, which is unity, uniting the people, which is obviously making sure that there's welfare. So for me, you can't have economic liberation if you do not have welfare or socialism, right? If there are average people, if you're not making plans, to create, also something interesting that you might need to note is even creating parks, it's actually, according to studies, even creating parks, right, that where people go for walks. I'm sure we've all seen in the movies, and even if you've traveled abroad, you'll see that you have several parks for walks. They increase your life quality. Quality of life improves drastically just because you have those little, those areas of leisure. Because if you're angry, you can take a walk, right? All those things. So ultimately, for me, if you have those really welfareism focused stuff on quality of life, economic liberation will be so easy because people will be putting their best foot forward. They'll be thinking better. Ideas will be coming. You won't even think about corruption because people will be their best selves. They'll be living their best lives. They'll be thinking about ways of being solutions as opposed to being problems. That's why for me, it's very important, for us to be able to get to the foundational roots of most things before we call out other smaller problems. And the foundational root is, who are we as a country and where do we want to go as a country? What's our choice as country, right? Have we agreed to one identity, and I think that's where national integration needs to come in. But I don't also think we're doing enough in terms of national integration in order to build patriotism, right? It's patriotism that makes people go into the military. It's patriotism that makes you literally serve your country, right? I said something, I did a sort of consultation thing with the vice president's office. And no, you can go to the next slide. And I said that ultimately, the thing is that Nigeria, I need to fall in love with Nigeria. For Nigeria to be better, I ultimately think every Nigerian needs to fall in love with Nigeria. And Nigeria then needs to return the love back, right? And that would mean that you do not let harm come my way. You improve on my security, you improve on my well-being, you improve on my quality of life. You improve on my brother's quality of life or my neighbor's quality of life, right? But I think we can only start there by loving Nigeria first. And then that takes me into another study, which, which we all know that is even what we say online that helps rank our countries, right? So a lot of people that have never been to Nigeria have only developed perspective about Nigeria online. Whereas in Nigeria, we have, look at the Ojude Oba, we have We have a nightlife, you know, good food, exotic food. We have beautiful men and beautiful women. You know, we have the brains, we have this, but how come nobody is pushing that much conversation of the positivity as much as we are pushing the negativity? Because that's what ultimately attracts the tourism that comes into our country, right? So what you say about Nigeria right now, someone from maybe Pakistan has just picked it up and said, well, I want to travel to Nigeria, but they've seen something, right? And then you're like, wow, okay, I'm not coming to Nigeria. And we all saw that even during Dubai's flooding, Dubai had to say nobody is allowed to tweet or write about the situation in Dubai, because that's the image that goes out about the country before people travel into the country, right? So what are we doing differently in that perspective? Because Nigeria is actually beautiful, and the normal human mind does this. It plays games with us, right? It's, if you focus on the negativity in your life, you forget what you're supposed to be grateful for. Gratitude is set aside. One thing not going right in your life, you forget everything else that's gone right. Because our mind has the ability to expand, you know, negative thoughts even much more than positive thoughts. So when you find that someone's mind wants to think a lot more positively, it means they have to be intentional about it. So for instance, when I wanted my mind to stop thinking about everything else that was going wrong, I had to start a gratitude journal. As a result, if one small thing is going wrong right now, I'm so focused on every other thing that is going well. So being good, you have to be intentional about being good. And that's ultimately, you know, one of the greatest keys that any sort of human being, just focus on what is going well, and you find that everything else aligns. And I think also as individual, we need to reflect that in our communication with Nigeria, right? And say, Nigeria, I love you, and I'm going to see the good in you, right? And ultimately, you find that Nigeria would, by God's grace, behave in return. Someone has to, you know, you could also say, so why is Nigeria not the one showing the love? By all means, you're Nigeria, I am Nigeria. So what we do is what makes Nigeria. And ultimately, someone has to extend their hands first, right? And we can be the bigger person and extend our hands of hope first, you know. Anyway, sorry, I've went on a tandem there. So let's go. So now I've mentioned some of the opportunities. We talked about youth, demographics, natural. I know we are spoiled. I think it's because we have so much, we don't know what to do with it, you know. It's sort of like, you know, the child that had so much wealth, and the father had so much wealth, and child doesn't know what to do with the wealth, and he's just misused it, and now the child wants to come back home, you know, to find his footing, to now get things right. And I think that's where Nigeria is at, and Nigeria is coming back home. Amen. So next slide, please. So ultimately, to be an effective leader, guys, I'm sure you've heard me say it, and I'm going to say it again. Impact. So there's this, you know, this what's the word? This title, this sort of fake illusion about what leadership means. And I think I've mentioned it, and people think being leader means being in this really top position. No, it starts from where you are right now. And that's what it really means, where you are right now. Who are you where you are right now? Because that's who you will be, right? When things get tough. And when you get to those really high positions, that's where you'll be. That's who you'll be. So you have to start, you know, putting in those ideals, those restrictions, those boundaries right now, because so when you're given something bigger, you're able to make effective use of it, you know, effective use of it. So obviously, to be a leader, you must be able to foster trust, drive positive change, and inspire others positively. Sorry, we needed to put positively there, because you can also inspire others negatively. I'm sure we all know Hitler, and we see how Hitler was. No, a lot of people still don't understand how Hitler was able to, you know, to have this much people just follow that vision. But you'll be amazed what one vision can carry, whether good or bad. That's why whenever I say impact positively is important, inspire positively is important, right? Foster trust is important, right? And it can be done. And I talk about the power of one. It takes one man. It usually takes one man. It usually takes one person to start. And that's where we see the case of Lee Kuan Yew. I actually wanted to, for the course of this discussion, I wanted to show you pictures of what Singapore and videos of what Singapore used to look like prior to today. So if you gone to Singapore, you ever get a chance to go to Singapore, you would also wonder how one person is able to sort of drive thorough change in their country, and that's Lee Kuan Yew. They call him the father of Singapore. So Singapore used to be an outright mud, right? So someone said they have that video, exactly. So, and they've taken themselves from a third world to first world. I don't know, I think, Lisa, my team didn't send it across. So maybe we can share it later. I can send it to you or something so we can take a look. So one man is able to now say, my people, this is where we are going. And this is where we are. And people followed. Even though it was tough, they followed, right? They followed because they knew it was good for them compared to where they were coming from. And that's just one person, right? And now, as time goes on, they are, you know, people I was in Singapore last year. So you find their parliamentary system is been carved out for them. I was telling someone yesterday how I went to Singapore when I went, and all the plants there, all the plants in Singapore, they have GPS. So you find that there's a labeling on it and it's a GPS. So if you pull out those plants, they can be trapped. And guess what? They source those plants from Africa. They source those plants from Europe. And they only brought the seedlings, the soil. That's what Lee Kuan Yew did. They brought the soil. So if you've ever read Third World to First World, he brought the soil and everything to Singapore. And that's what obviously birthed what we are seeing today, right? And this is people that have understood that they don't have, you know, they do not have, and they understand what it means to not have, so they appreciate that when they have and use it to the good of people. So which goes back to my point about Nigeria being a spoiled child. So next slide, please. Help me. So we're talking about the qualities of leadership, and I think I've mentioned trust, driving positive change, which is where I brought my point on Lee Kuan Yew. Integrity is key. You know, if you recall what I said, leadership is not black or white, it's gray. But integrity is black or white. Right? Where you stand is black or white. So always remember that. And they always look out for the slippery slopes. And sometimes it's okay to take those time out to reflect and to look out for those slippery slopes, and also ask how you can get past those slippery slopes, because you will find them. And sometimes you find you going down the slippery slope, but you just need to be able to even find your way out as soon as possible. So I'm not sure if anyone has ever read Chinua Achebe, Not at Ease, and which talks about someone that literally also went down the slippery slope, you know. So if you've ever read that, I think you should. If you haven't, I think you should. It's interesting when you bring it in from this perspective. So there's vision. You need a vision. You need to know. You know, I think it was Abubakar Suleiman that said this. He said that a leader can only take someone, take people to where they have never been to. You cannot take people to where you've been to. You can only take them to where you've never been to. So when you have a vision, you're going somewhere that you've never been. So you must be armed with a vision. And I keep saying that's the tool you need, because everything else, it comes under that, you know, that vision. So empathy, I guess empathy for your staff members, for those you work with. Again, this empathy, I feel like if you have integrity, if you have vision, everything else follows, right? Empathy is very contextual, because even you to sometimes be like, have I even found empathy for myself? But no, actually, you must be able to spread yourself so much, right? And have enough, I call it bandwidth, to take in as much as possible to help others. So have the spirit of resilience. You must be able to get back up. You must be able to get back up. Get back up when it gets tough. When you see those setbacks, because if you are down, and if something has happened in the office, when I'm down and depressed and I'm out, trust me, everybody else is gone. Everybody else is out. Then there's no movement. Everybody else too is depressed, because they need you to be the guiding light, or they need you to lead. So you can't be, you must be able to absorb shocks. You know, cars have shock absorbers. You must create one for yourself, right? Create a shock absorber for yourself, because you will see things. You will question things. You will question your mental health. You will question life. That God, where did you find this sort of human being? But you know what I do now? When I meet people like that, I laugh, because I'm now looking at the diversity of perspective. I now enjoy this diversity of perspective. I'm like, wow, God, they create so. Because the diversity of perspective is interesting. But you know, our perspective towards it, perspective is also very key, by the way. Our perspective towards it is like, who is this person talking nonsense? Who is this person talking nonsense? No, but you see it as a diversity of perspective. It's beautiful. As a result, you won't lose any drop or ounce of shouting, of getting annoyed, because you've seen beauty in it, right? And then it's okay for you. So resilience is very, very important. Create a natural shock absorber. You know, growing up, I think one of the biggest things they kept telling me in my family is that I need to grow thick skin. I need to grow thick skin. I need to grow thick skin, because boy, one person tackled me today, I've gone home to cry. You know, and I think even in my in the start of my career in public service, it was the same. But no, I chose not to accept that perspective. I chose not to accept that narrative. You know, I must be resilient, because people are watching me, you know, and people are coming after me. And what I do determines that, you know. And I think even from a young age, as myopic as, well, not myopic, as small-minded as this might sound, and I'm a very spiritual person, I always say to myself that I find that other destinies are linked to me. And it doesn't need to be in the big scale of things, but maybe if I'm doing what I need to do, along the way, I find someone that, maybe if I need to go to the island today, and I need to go to the island for work. But because I'm crying, I'm moping, I did not go to the island for work. So the person I'm even supposed to meet and help in that environment, that meeting, they've lost that chance. You know, so that's the way I thought about it, and it helped me, you know, in now maturing. That was a very premature view, but it's now helped me mature my perspective of what resilience means, and helped me to understand that actually I must be formidable. That's the way, I must be formidable, you know. And I think my spirituality has also helped me in when you say you're a generational carrier, you know, a generational changer. So it's, my spirituality has also helped me in forming that perspective. So perhaps find, if you don't think that you have it in you right now to sort of develop it, find what, it could be your religion, it could be a friend, it could be a mentor. Find someone that can help you harness, you know, and to grow that ability to be resilient. Next, please. So the next one is driving positive change. And I think I won't go into that because, guys, I've been going into it. So, but I would like to say that you can drive positive change through building trust, inspiring action, encouraging innovation, ensuring stability. And you know, something I've said is that inspiring action is so important, because sometimes, you know, you are also bewildered with the questions of, I don't have anything to start. Where do I start from? Where do I start with inspiring action? Where? You know, I think that's one of the biggest questions we ask ourselves as young people as well. But actually, where can you not start from? Start from your community. Start from picking up that trash on the floor. Start from the words you say. Start from volunteering. I found that from when I was struggling about where do I start from, do you know what I did? So I'm sure if you read my my bio, I started from volunteering. He said that I started at Kimberly Wayne and Diamond. Yes, but I actually was not paid at Kimberly Wayne and Diamond. I was working for free, right? Start by volunteering, and eventually you will find that path. It's not easy. No one ever starts big. No one ever blows overnight. Well, if they do blow overnight, then just pray that they don't blow as quickly as their candlelight doesn't blow as quickly as they turned it on, you know? So work is so important. And don't, you know, I think it's a saying, don't throw away the days of small beginnings. They're so key. So if you need to drive those positive change, so please go to the next slide, Lisa, because I'm on the next slide. So if you need to drive those positive change, start where you are. Start where you are. Stop thinking too big, because why? The big will come and meet you. Success will come and meet you when you're on your path. You know, create that path for yourself, you know, ultimately. So I've talked about ensuring stability as well. We've talked about resilience. And now I'm just in my final slides, please. So just to summarize a lot of things I said, and I think when we do questions and answers, it will put a lot of it into, you know, into perspective a lot more. Into perspective a lot more when we do questions and answers. So ultimately, to summarize, the leadership is not a one-size-fits-all. You know, its context matters, you know, and the quality of your work matters. If nobody is seeing how much work you're putting in, I promise you, it's fine. It's okay, because the person that has the influence and the power to take you to the next level will be the one to now see the work that you're putting in. So it's fine. It's planned by God, you know. So keep at it, keep going, keep the work going. and keep being true to yourself. Be the representation that Nigeria needs, you know, and I think eventually one person will become an army. And I think that person will then take us where we need. And we're going to have our own Singapore story. Amen. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Aisat. Such an insightful lecture today. We're very grateful. It's now time for questions and answers. If you have a question, just raise your hands and I'll ask you to unmute so you can unmute and ask your question. I guess leadership is a very dicey topic in Nigeria, so I should be seeing some eager hands to ask questions about what you just said. So anybody want to ask a question? Okay, we seem to have understood you so well that we don't need further questions. Okay, I have a hand. Isaac James, I've asked you to unmute and ask a question.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me? Good evening.
Just go right ahead.
Okay, my name is Isaac James from Jos. If you look at the situation in this country, we're in a serious leadership crisis, and as a result, the outcome of the leadership crisis has messed up, you know, everything in this country. We can see that there is a need for good leadership because we have people who occupy leadership positions yet they are not leaders. My question is to the presenter now. Please, can you give us what are the things that will produce a good leader? What are the things that produce a good leader in every sphere in this country, whether in the religious, the political, the economic, or whatever ramification? What are the things that must be done to have good leaders in our society today? That's my question. Yes, okay. That's my question.
So to your question, you said that so because you broke up a bit. So your question is what do we need to do or to produce good leaders today? Is that what?
Yeah, that's my question. That's my question.
Oh, so what we need to do is produce leaders. Okay. Okay, because I know you were talking about Jos, but I know you broke up as well. Okay, so really, is it one question? I can take it one by one, right? Silas.
Yes, you can.
Okay, sure. All right. So hi Isaac. So that's a really good question, but it's also a very broad question with so many answers.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. So I said that's a good question, but
hello,
it's also
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you too. So that's a very good question, but it's also a very broad question. And it's important to note that there's not a one-way question for it. There's not a one-type answer for it, rather. It's not a one-way fits all. It works for different, there are several answers for it. So what do we need to do to produce good leaders? So the one thing I always say is that Nigeria, sorry, I hate to break it to all of us, but Nigeria is a representation of its leaders. It's a reflection. Nigerians are a reflection of their leaders, right? Because it's what Nigerians want that leaders are going to do. So if Nigerians, yes, there might be our elites view of us, because actually we are part of the elites. Because when you meet downtrodden people, Nigerians that don't have meals to eat, then you know that we are part of the elites. And I actually lived in the north, so I also have a full view of what situations is like as well. And I've lived in the South. So we are a reflection of our people. So when you find politicians are coming to obviously give us food, as a result of to campaign, is because that's what we requested for. Yes, it might not be you that has requested for it, but that's what majority has requested for. So ultimately, we're a reflection of what our leaders are. What our leaders are also doing is mostly because that's what, sorry, it might be controversial, but that's what most Nigerians have also requested for. It takes someone that is very, very strong-hearted to lead Nigeria. I'm in government, and I say that one of the biggest things is getting Nigerians to support good things. It's very, very tough. So really, what is the solution? Is we start with ourselves, gong. When we talk about bribery, we talk about corruption. I can tell you for sure, the average Nigerian is corrupt. Sorry, again, I had to break. The average Nigerian is corrupt. So now imagine that average Nigerian now getting a political position. What do you think they will do with it? So those are the real questions. So really, for me, for us to produce great leaders, we have to sort of look at, now take it back home. What sort of leader am I? What do I like, Gongon? What I like, is it for Nigeria? Is it what is good for Nigeria or what is not good for Nigeria? Right? Or is it just because I've voted for some because I know them? Or is it because I actually like what they are bringing to the table? I'm not looking at their political party, but I'm actually looking at what they're saying. Is it strong enough? Is it going to shake up Nigeria? Is it what we need? And I think that's the perspective we need to start taking it from, right? Not, not that this person can offer this, I know this person, or maybe I'm throwing away this political party because of this person, because of that person. No, actually, what they are preaching, is it what we require? And then determine that and say, okay, this is who I'm going to vote for. And I think also, one of the easiest answers to this is, what can Nigerians do to pick the best leaders, to pick good leaders or something? Or I presume that's where the question lies. Have you seen the voting numbers? The voting numbers are so low. The voting numbers are incredibly low. We have to now ask, why are Nigerians also not voting? Why are Nigerians not voting? Those are the obvious questions as well. India just concluded its elections, and apparently that's to be the biggest voting turnout in the world. So I might be wrong, but I know that it runs into 500. They had over 500 million people vote, literally. But where are we as Nigerians? What's the numbers? Number of women even vote more than Nigerian men, right? So again, and if we want to look at it, is voter suppression? I don't know, right? But I don't also think so. Also, what's stopping people from getting their PVCs? If it's even a national identity card that you can use in anywhere. So what's stopping people from getting their PVCs? So those are the questions we also need to ask. What are we doing? So I'll take the question back to you. What are you doing to pick good leaders? Right? What are you doing to pick good leaders? What are you doing to pick the right leaders to lead us? And then when we start asking ourselves those questions, then eventually we'll find the ripple effect that then translates into the macro perspective, But again, like I said, it's not a one-way street answer. There's so many answers, and I could give you so many more answers, but that's the one that I know that is so important. Thank you. I hope that helps.
All right, thank you very much. I think that's helpful. If he's following the class from beginning, you'd have gotten more answers to the question. I've asked Esther Akiba. Esther Akiba, you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much for a very wonderful presentation. My question goes to us. How can a follower or the followers play along or access a leader who is authoritative and autocratic in a democratic society? I'm situating this question within the context of Nigerian situation.
Okay, so I'm just trying to write that down. So you said, how can a leader, so say that again.
How can a leader who is autocratic in a democratic society, how can one assess a leader who is autocratic in a democratic society?
Okay, was there a point where, so can I ask you this? Hitler was accessed. So I don't understand. So really, you can access anybody, right? Do you mean accessible, like being reachable? Is that what you mean? Because what I also think is that, them being autocratic, them being totalitarian, them being a dictator doesn't stop, what they are supposed to do, doesn't stop their accessibility. And even at one point, Lee Kuan Yew was a dictator, to be honest with you. So then what position they stay in the spectrum, in the leadership spectrum or political, in the constitution spectrum, doesn't determine if they're accessible. Is that what you mean, Esther?
Yes.
So it doesn't stop accessibility. Even Hitler was accessed, and I don't think that what also we have to now ask that when we say someone is autocratic, are we being emotional, or there's literally evidence to back that they are being autocratic? Because also, ultimately, I think sometimes because we don't like a certain leader, we presume that they are being autocratic, in a democracy. So we need to just ask those key questions and also ultimately be truthful
Okay,
to
I'm actually
ourselves.
talking about a leader who is unwilling to listen to the followers, or trying to accept corrections when he or she is going wrong at a particular instance, because there are leaders like that who wouldn't want to listen to the followers even when they are going wrong. How can this be addressed? How can the follower assess this kind of leadership?
Okay, better context. Okay. So firstly, they have a personality issue, right? Not necessarily an autocratic behavior, but a personality one. And they probably need to come for this class. That's first and foremost. Secondly, what can you do differently? That's where because you don't have control over them, right? But what can you do differently? What tone are you setting, right? It's a very tough situation to be, especially if you don't have context, right? I would think so. For me, maybe it will start with me having a conversation with them first. If they still insist on, on being the way they are and not carrying people along, I would do things differently, or rather, I find myself excusing that space, because remember what I said in this presentation. When you are following people, you're already learning what sort of leader you won't want to be. So Esther, so when you get to your own position of leadership, right, you already have a full understanding, right, of this is how this person did it. I don't want to do it that way. And I will not do it that way, because that way is bad. So I want you to appreciate the perspective it's given to you right now. I want you to continue being impactful, continue doing your own thing, be innovative, carving out your own leadership space for you. So you are now strong enough to now say, to now excuse yourself from that scenario. Does that make sense? So you don't excuse yourself immediately. You appreciate, you see the positivity is given to you, which is new learnings, right? Which is what you need to do better when you get there, before you eventually find yourself exiting from there. So I like to, because I don't have context, so that's really the only answer I can give to you.
And I'm very satisfied with that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Esther.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll ask Adams to unmute. I've asked Adams Taufik to unmute and ask a question.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, good
Adams.
evening. Good evening, everyone. Yes, I am at Adams Taufik Pelumi. I'm sorry, I'm a bit unorganized currently because of the rain and everything currently in Lagos. So my question is actually, like I won't because of time, I won't put it in a scenario format. But then I just want to ask that, is a born leader better than a trained leader? Or is there difference between a born leader and a trained leader? And if there is a difference, like which of these leaders is better? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. So there's nothing like a born leader. Just so you know. There's nothing like a born leader. People are born with visions and purposes, right? And visions that they want to, you can like from the age of, I remember when I was very young, like from the age of 5, I'm like, I want to be Nigeria's first female president. I want to do this. So people can have purpose and vision, but even the way I'm saying that I have that vision of being this leader doesn't mean at 5 years old, I had those sort of attributes of leadership. And it did not mean that 5 years ago, I had that attribute either, right? It's trained, it's learning, it's absorbing yourself to new situation, new context, is being prepared to learn more and to do more, and literally just open your mind to take in so many contexts, so many perspectives. You know, perspective is a beauty about life, you know. So there's nothing like a born leader. Nobody's born a leader, because we ask a baby, what's leader? They don't know what that is. You know, you have sight, you have vision, you have vision, you have perspective, you have goals and dreams, but not, you know. Okay, so you just said, what about a prince? Now that's a different perspective, right? But because he's a prince doesn't also mean he's going to be a king, right? But people are born into leadership capacity. Yes, so people can be born into leadership capacities, right? But doesn't also mean they take up that leadership capacity. Also, you can be born into, I know, I'm not sure if you guys know the story of, actually, you know, Queen Elizabeth, the late Queen Elizabeth was not actually supposed to be queen, right? Our father's brother was the one that abdicated the throne for Queen Elizabeth's father. He left this throne for, he was a king. He left this throne for for Queen Elizabeth's father because he fell in love with an American woman, right? So because he was born into that doesn't mean he still took up that role. Do you understand what I mean? Also, you can have someone that takes up that role and they mess it up. You know, that's why even when people are born into royalty, you see that they take them through several courses, several cultures, you know, take them through a lot of things so they can know. You find that they even have intense classes so they can understand. That's part of the training, so they can know what they were born into, because no child is born and the word prince is in their mouth. So they are trained for it. People are trained for positions. You are currently in this Zoom training for a certain position. And you're currently taking in what information I'm saying out of my mouth that works for you and what doesn't work for you. Does that make sense? You're currently separating it. So nobody is born into that ultimately. That's to go back to my question. Because even when a prince is born, you have to tell him that he's a prince. You have to reiterate. You find out, you tell them that you have to keep reiterating, you know, that they're prince. They're prince. You find them going through several courses, have you seen them do trainings? You know, I'm not sure if you guys have watched Game of Thrones, but you've seen them do training of swords, you know, because you have to develop them, and it's by developing. And are you looking? So if you are looking for the answer, pretty much if you're trained to take on responsibility, take on perspective, take on leadership, then you're in a better context. Even at home, you find that fathers are training sons to say, my son, this is how you do it. Right? So maybe the word is not train, and maybe the word is not trained, but people are actually just slowly pushed into that that atmosphere. Does that help? Does that answer your question? Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. I think just to add, nobody is born a military man. When you're born, no matter how strong you are, you have to go through training to become an actual military man. So it's the same thing with leadership, I think. Let me ask, there's a name here, Kopo. We said everybody should put his government given name in the Zoom. Kopo, I've asked you to unmute and ask your question. This is just for today. We need to get your government name on your Zoom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Cletus Opo. So I'm still in the office, so I'm using my official Zoom page. That's why you're seeing C Opo.
Okay, go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, my questions goes to one on the slide during the presentation where they ask what is leadership, and one of the place there, one of the definitions there by one Peter, that says that the only definition of a leader is someone who has followers. Let's bring it back home in Nigeria. Does it mean that the leaders we have, that everybody is shouting that we don't have good leaders in our country, does it mean they don't have followers? That is my question. Thank you.
So if you recall during, just to get your question, if you recall during my presentation, I said that actually that was put there for perspective. And I did a disclaimer that was put there for the purpose of perspective, you know, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but I do agree that to be a good leader, you must also be a good follower. So I do agree with that. If you are bringing it home from, I'm trying to understand your question in terms of bringing it home. Every leader has followers. Every leader has followers, but definition of being a leader is not by just having followers. And if you notice from that quote, it did not say the only definition. If it was going deeper, it said the only definition of being a good leader is someone that has followers. It did not say good. The leader can be so many things, right? But ultimately, even as smart as I am, everybody has followers. So there are so many people following so many people. You know, there are so many people, you know, Sore was in the elections. I know how many votes he got. You know, Fela Durotoye, you know, the last 2 elections, I know how many votes he got, right? So there are people in those dynamics that ultimately have followers, but the definition of a good leader is not by how many followers they have, right? That's not what makes a good leader. Is that good?
Thank you very much. I think he has muted himself. Okay, I think we'll move to the next question. I have Philibus Shitu Matu. Philibus, you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, good evening, Ma. Thank you for the presentation and the lecture. Am I audible? Are you hearing me, Ma?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, fine. So my question is just simple. I wanted to have more light on it. Is it true that leaders are born or leader has been made? So that's just my question. If there is more light to that, I will appreciate more.
Okay, so I think we've already answered that question. Or do you want me to repeat myself?
Yes, it's possible. I was not getting some of the lectures actually, probably because of my network.
Okay, so are leaders born or they are made? Leaders are made. Leaders are not born, because it's like saying that is a child with makeup born. No child is born with makeup. They start to wear makeup later, right? So leaders are not born, because a baby doesn't know what a leader is. If you're a spiritual person, you know that, when they say you step into your purpose, that's what people do. That's what it's about. You step in to purpose. You are not born. You simply are created for it. And like I said, but you are born with purpose. So let's understand that you are born with purpose. You're born with vision, right? You're born with that, because I'm a testament to that. You're born with that, but you're not born. I said that when I was 5, I wanted to be Nigeria's first female president. But did I have the capacity to be a leader? No, I didn't. Firstly, I had to grow up first. That's number one. You have to grow up, and then you have to now learn the rudiments of it all. What people culture, what people like, what's the preference, what works for a certain context. You have to read. It's like asking, are you born a lawyer? You are not born a lawyer, because you don't know what a lawyer is, right? You have to read, you have to study, and even after getting a degree, you have to be called to the bar. So then you have to, after being called to the bar, you have to now work and work and work and work and work. Start from a graduate level to a top level. You have to keep doing it. So they can even say that you are SAN, you are SAN, right? So it's a process, but you have a vision, you have purpose, you know what you want. Now, what you are doing is you just need to carve the path. You need to cut the grass, the weeds, the everything, carve the road, build the road, to get to your destination. That's what really leadership is. Building that road, building that path, carving it. If you need to add stone on the road, add it. If you need to add anything on the road, add it. That's really what it's about. So it's how you carve that path that really, really, really sets you apart from other leaders. But yes, people are born into positions. People are born into royalty. People are born into, into affluence, into wealth, But people have to be prepared before they can take up those positions. That clear?
All right, thank you so much, Ma. I think purpose is the best thing, then building up with other things as life continues, right?
Sorry, yes, purpose is the first thing. What is the drive? What is the vision? So that's where you ask yourself. So it's from the vision, you now start to create the path to reach that destination. And that's where the leadership attributes come into.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we'll move on to the next question. I have one more hand up. David Moses Abiodun, I've asked you to unmute and ask your question.
Okay, good evening, the presenter. We really appreciate the class and particularly on the aspect of distinguishing between a born leader and a trained leader. So my question is, even after subjecting some leaders to training, after passing through the rigorous of training, after getting to the position, they still end up doing as if they have not enrolled in leadership skill. The question is, do you think it is high time we include it in our constitution that leadership skill, particularly like a leadership skill evidence as a benchmark of an elected or getting a position in Nigeria? Do you think it is wise? Because majority of our leaders, maybe because I used to call them accidentals at times. Maybe they are not well prepared for the task ahead. So do you think it is high time we include a leadership skill training as a benchmark of getting a political position in Nigeria, constitutionally speaking? Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Thanks for that question. It reminds me of my time. I was in Channels TV last week, and someone was insisting that one of the presenters that Nigeria needs to, make leadership training compulsory for leaders. Listen, whether they go through training or not, if you're a bad person, you're a bad person. If you're a good person, you're a good person. Point blank. There's no training in the world that would help, Yes, if they are a good person, yes, let's harness by all means with leadership training. Let's bring in more perspective. Because if they're a bad person, what would they do with the perspective? They will just throw it in the bin. They can sit through it. They'll go for those classes and they'll just be watching the lecturer talk, finish. Do you understand? That's the reality. But yes, I'm not adverse to it. I like the idea because even at Lateef Jakonde, that's what we do. But we target young people because they've not obviously gotten into that, popularized leadership, that grand space, although they are leaders in their various communities, in their businesses, but there's still room for them to absorb, to take in new information. And that's why we're still trying to work on those perspectives, to work on them, because there's still room for it, right? But ultimately, they had the privilege, even the Bible says it, whether you're Muslim or Christian, God doesn't force himself on any believer, right? You have to be first accepting of God before you see him working in your life, right? So even our fellows, they first had to say that they want to learn by first applying to come into Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy, first and foremost. They first took that step to say that they want to grow intellectually, mentally, even physically, right? If I dare say so. So you have to first know who you are. I at a very young age, I identified my values. I identified what my deal breakers are, what my deal breakers is currently. And I identified what I wouldn't like to do. My vision helped me pick out those values. My purpose helped me pick out those values, right? And I identified them. And because I've identified them, so now even when the truth is that being in political space or being in government is not a walk in the park. As much as you have good people in government, you have double bad people, right? And they're still not necessarily bad because they're still Nigerians. They're still the average Nigerians that go home to their families and kids, right? I had to identify that. So when I'm at a crossroads, guess what helps me? Those values I created for myself at the age of 10, 12, 15, 17, 18, 19, because those were my beliefs. Those were my driving force. And those are what is driving me. So let me even shock you. A lot of our leaders go to Harvard. A lot of our leaders go to Harvard leadership training. A lot of our leaders go to a lot of leadership trainings, by the way, just so you know. So if you meet a lot of our leaders, you find that some of them have been to Kennedy School of Government. Some of them have been to Oxford University. Nigerian leaders are very educated, though. Nigerian leaders are super informed people, educated, exposed, super exposed people. So when people come back and they behave a certain way, just know that it's not the leader. It's because that's what the only message Nigerians understand. So at what point do we shift that conversation from just being our leaders alone to actually shift it to the population that's over 200 million? And yet you only have maybe 1,000 or 2,000. At what point? Because if Nigerians say that they want to kick out any bloody person right now, they'll kick them out. The power is with the people. The power has always been with the people. But the people do not understand the power yet. And that's why in my open dreams, I hope we have gotten it right this time with our leaders. I really seriously hope. And I'm even hopeful that we have. I'm hopeful that we have. So it's not about trainings. I'm telling you, they've all gone to those trainings. Even all the political elites, non-political, they sent them abroad. It's not about it. Because when they leave that place and they come back to Nigeria, there's a new perspective about what Nigerians want to see. And they have to change themselves to what Nigerians want to see. So now, and these courses are very life-changing. So I'm not sure if you ever watched the Herbert Wigway's funeral or memorial, and I think it was Segun Agbaje or maybe Aigimo Kwede that said that they sent them to Harvard Business School. And when they sent them to Harvard Business School, none of them ever came back the same. They went to open up Access Bank. Segun Agbaje went far and beyond in GT Bank. That's because that place is it's private sector. It's a business sort of angle that allows one to fly, and they're calling the shots. But our people also go for those courses. Why don't they come back to say, actually, this is it? And we look at leaders alone. We look at one person. But do you understand that there are over 200,000, even in Lagos alone, there are over 150,000 civil servants. And we look at only Governor Sanwo-Olu. But Governor Sanwo-Olu is not the operational person, he's the political head. There are people that are in charge of operations. They are the ones that do the implementation. It's a civil servant. Same way it's national, it applies nationally as well. It's the civil servants. Right? So at what point do we now, instead of you saying, maybe not saying our people should go for leadership training, say that what creation are we doing? What systems are we creating for civil service? What are we, because even when the political head leaves, the system should be strong enough Same way when you have someone that owns a business that is dead today, because they've created a system, that's where sustainability comes from. So there's a system. At what point are we focusing on the system and implementation? Whereas remember, that a civil servant is what most of us in our families, we have civil servants there. Civil servants are in our families. What system? Because if Tinubu leaves today, right? Because life is not guaranteed. It's systems that continues. We leave the conversation of the system alone and get infatuated with one person, whereas this person is also battling the situation of the system for us. We already saw with the recent strike with the NLC, is it NLC? Yeah, I think it's NLC, you know. Do you understand the power? Hey, Nigeria has misguided, focus, and I think ultimately we need to support with whatever leader is from President Tinubu, and we need to support them to create that system that outlives them. Because why are our systems not innovative? Instead, we are always picking at the head. Even Bosun Tijani, I'm sure that he's trying to create a system. It's a very innovative system that is operational, that is, that lives in technology, that is technology driven. But I'm sure he also has one of two civil servants that say, that's not how we do it here. Oh. Don't come and do that one here. Oh. That's not how it's done. Oh. So how many of you talk to that civil servant, but yet you call out Bosun Tijani? That's why, which goes back to my original point, change starts with us. Michael Jackson sang it years and years ago. That point is still relevant. Every civil servant needs to go into their job and say, what do I want to do differently? What do I want to do differently to be a solution? How do I want to drive this change? Because those systems lie with them. How do I, and most of us are, we're a part of that system. How do I want to drive this change? What do I want to do differently to that file on my desk? What do I want to do differently to that file on my desk, that paperwork? That one that I'm supposed to minute out of an NGO that wants to support us. How do I want to push it out? Those are systems. And we must not get infatuated with the political head. You only get infatuated with the political head if the system is good. There must be a system. I remember years ago when Erifai fired teachers. I was in Kaduna then, so so I worked with Erifai, so I know the pressure. He got rid of teachers that couldn't complete Primary 1 exam paper. And I know how much pressure this man had to undergo. They shut down Kaduna at one point. Electricity. So this electricity thing, I've experienced it in Kaduna when NLC shut down. When NLC shut down currently with the NLC strike with minimum wage, even the minimum wage step, we don't even understand minimum wage. Come on. The minimum wage is actually, if we calculate it very well, it's actually maybe 100 and something naira. So there's so many things, guys. Come on. Let's change our perspective. Yes, if I got rid of them, the pressure, Kaduna went on a blackout. There was no light, there was no fuel. It suffered. Now, my brother and maybe someone I know, probably even, and maybe someone that my brother is not in civil service, but maybe someone I know probably even took part in that strike. You know, what did I do differently to tell them that what you're doing is stupid? Did they? Because it's actually stupid. Someone that is not capable to do the job was fired. Let's say even if it was not done in the procedural manner, but they could not. There was incompetence. And by God forbid, our child, maybe my daughter, your daughter, anybody's child, eventually now passes through that person for schooling. Can't you see it's generational curse? Nigeria has generational curse. It does. My pastor said it's not like that, but like, so, you know, so those are the realities. Let's focus. It starts with us. And you'll be amazed how much power civil servants have. They are the controllers. Now,
thank you.
they are one of us. So now let's talk to ourselves. Let's talk to each other. Then we know them, they know us. Even me, my husband, I come home, it's like, you're in the news for this, or this was in the news. What can you do differently? What could you have done differently? Accountability. My family hold me accountable. How are we holding each other accountable? That's all. Thank you.
Aisha, thank you so
very
much for
much.
doing this. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Edie.
Aisha, thank you so much for doing this. It's always a pleasure to have you. My name is Kunle Lawal. I know we've not
Oh, hi.
everything. We've had multiple chances, and it's great we're meeting here. So I just wanted to compliment what you were saying. Thank you so much for handling this. I've been listening to you, and I'm intrigued. And of course, I love the perspective you're going to. So let me just expand it a little bit. Most people talk about leadership like leadership is a distant thing. Let me give you an example. In electoral college, we're training you to be basic, or to give a basic understanding of politics and governance.
Mm-hmm.
This is your 9th week in the cohort, and chairmen are still begging you to come to a class that is free, that costs nothing. You want me to tell you the real answer? I don't think you can be a leader, because one of the basic qualities of being a leader is commitment. If you're not committed to anything, your vision has failed. It's a general parameter. Now, as regards politics, over the time we taught you over these 9 weeks, I know that, and the first thing I said in the class on the cohort was, first and foremost, whatever you know about politics, please bury it outside. But it seems, I don't know how to say this nicely. It seems it is buried on some people's brains. And this is not being, because you look at politics based on the person I wanted to win did not win, so it's bad. Really? Really? APC is bad, PDP is bad, Labour is bad, this one is bad. Let me give you one juice. I've been in political parties. All parties are bad, and all parties are good. We watch football.
There are few with Nigerians.
Yes, now all parties are good and all parties are bad. The drama in political parties you don't want to understand. But let me ask you a real question. You're talking about leaders. Nigerian citizens mortgage their responsibilities, and here's the catch. Are you not in your estate group? When they say they want to do road, is estate chairman not buying new car? You think it's still you are controlling 1 billion naira? Let me ask you a question. When a politician comes out and says he wants to run, if he does not have G-class, do you listen to him? But yet you want an Obama-like government. Take a struggle now. Let's move. Nigerian youth say they are not called into presidency. We agree. They're not called into presidency. They are not called into presidency. They are not called into presidency. But here's the funny thing.
What did they do?
No. Here's the funny thing. Davido say he wants to remove car from port. People raise 240 million naira in 24 hours. But you cannot raise that money for a young person running for president. This is where they ask that question. Is something strong with you? Because it's true. You cannot berate leaders. I'll tell you something. Aisha mentioned something very great. No politician can steal 1 naira without the aid of a civil servant. It's not possible. Director of Finance, I worked as SA to a minister sometime in 2011. And I remember the common conversation. Minister come, minister go, barracks still remain. They tell you, if you don't sign it, the other minister that is coming after you will sign it. They are still there. It's you that is going. And that's the truth. That's
They'll get rid of you.
And do you know who the civil servants are? All of us on this call. Right here. Nigeria, I want Nigeria to work. When last did you get a driver's license by actually going to driver's school? Not as your money just complete. You just buy car, put for Lagos or Abuja road and attempt to kill yourself. If we all break the laws and all break simple parameters, that's not how we're going to produce great leaders. It's not possible. So it's very easy. Anybody in office, you just start throwing yabs. If I give you 1 day in the president's office, you think you can't even do what the president does. I'm telling every one of you, if I've seen you put commitment this cohort, if it's you people, not generally you people in this cohort, the last 14 cohorts I've seen in electoral college, I can't spot one president. Do you know what it takes to be president? You would think president is by having money. No, let's tell the truth now. Silas, let's tell the truth. They think being president is having money. If it's like that, many people would have been president now if it's by having money. money is the least factor. And I remember I said this in your class, one of your classes, that money is not the biggest thing. The first thing you need is influence. And you can only have influence if you've done something. Is it people that don't attend class that want to recall senator? How you want to take Duam now? No, we speak for Pidgin. How we want to take Duam? You want to recall senator, you know they attend class. How you want to take Duam? If I still, and we've done the legislative, if I go over the processes right now, and even this class, I'm not sure everybody still remembers it. I looked at your campaigns. You were running the legislative position, and you did an internal digital campaign, and most of you were talking of executive functions. I didn't ignore it. I was like, and we taught these ones. It's not that we taught them, or I have to go to the video recording. I'll not believe I taught you guys. So before you open your mouth to speak to a leader, make sure you have ensured your own responsibilities as a citizen.
Absolutely.
We've taught you the National Ethics Act, which shows all the commitments of this thing. I'll close with this. A lot of you were proud when one rebel, who I won't call the person's name, did not stand up for the anthem. I'll tell you my opinion. I didn't like the anthem that was played. But I would acknowledge that section 24(2), I believe, of the Nigerian Constitution that states every citizen must respect the Constitution, the flag, the pledge, and the anthem of Nigeria. Most of you shared that video of that person sitting down. I will not glorify the person by calling the person name. If we shared it, hey, rage against your country. Do you know how you look to other countries? Have you ever sat down and considered how you look to other countries? People want to invest in Nigeria. They say, no, Nigerians are so volatile. If they say it's about their country, I don't think I'll be here. Who do you think is losing job? It's you here now. You think it's the big boys? The big boys are flying private jet too. You know now. They've ended. So before you open your mouth and berate any leader, look at yourself. Who are you? Because you're a leader in your own self. How are you leading your family? How are you leading? Some of you, once Popsy die like this, you are dragging house. Your own blood brother, you cannot align sleep.
So they go and kill each other.
Drag this. You are calling yourself, then you see somebody say, Tinubu is Atiku, is Peter Obi, that is our problem. People are not ready. I just decided to add to what you said. You are totally not ready. And let me tell you guys something.
That's a very good.
If you see somebody and over your class, you've been taught by people in the APC, people in Labour Party, people in SDP, people in ADC, you've been taught by everybody across parties. But yet you still cannot unbundle that madness that this party is bad. Let me tell you something. All parties are bad because all good Nigerians refuse to participate. Sure, you want to know what's going on with Yul Edochie and his wife. Well done now. Don't go and read the Nigerian Constitution. Be following Yul Edochie. Let me see how it will help you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. I even just want to add to that. Maybe I'll even say this, right? So if you even understand, if you say that you're with a party and you don't know where your party stands on the political spectrum, then you are not in a party. In the spectrum being at, is it a left party? Is it a right party? Or is it in the middle? Right? So you've not. So political parties are even supposed to be driven by ideals. So just to add to that, everybody is doing it the wrong way.
Let me add to that. Their activists told them Nigerian politics doesn't have ideology. So the parties don't have constitution. That's what their activists told them.
Well, you'll be surprised. APC is a left party. It's a social party. APC is a left
party.
Yeah,
PDP is the right party.
Is a more right party.
No, but they don't think these things. Like I told you, their activists have already told them. They are friendly activists. They've told them, political parties don't have constitution. People that have not been in the political party, that have not attended, looked at it. So come on,
PDP
calm
is the
down.
right party. PDP is capitalism. APC is socialism. LP, Labour Party is socialism.
Socialism. They don't know this thing. When Kunle Lawal says it, they'll say it's Kunle theory. I helped write some party constitutions. You think it's theory? You listen to what your activists told you. Now, let me ask you one question. Have your activists been able to even install a local government chairman? Ask yourself, have they helped anybody? They have only helped themselves encourage dollars to use money to do things and live the good life. And they'll be arguing nonsense. But well, since you want to follow them and believe that Nigeria's constitution is useless, I'll ask you a question. Have you read the Nigeria's constitution? We're saying, it needs some amendments. The National Assembly is a little behind. But Nigeria's constitution is not useless. And don't worry, I will not start this thing. I'll start
it's definitely good. And the US if they love the US, Nigeria constitution is actually rated off the US as well. So we're very close with the US. So there you have it. If you ever like the US, you don't like Nigeria.
One of the funniest things, and I'll say what I did here. I'm not supposed to say this, but I'll say this here, just for context. So I remember when they sang the On Your Mandate song in the National Assembly. And a lot of large CSOs in Nigeria came out. How can the president have a song? This, that. Then I was talking to my friend in the APC, and he's part of the media, and they were going back and forth. And then he was like, Kunle, why have you been laughing since morning? You have not even answered any one of us. I said, should I tell you something? And he said, what? I said, the US president has an anthem. He said, it's a lie. I said, Google it. And he did. And he was like, what? I said, so when those activists are saying US, you realize this is not the US. And you've heard the anthem so much. When Transformers come to visit the White House, we'll play it at the back, the President of the United States. You've been hearing it so much. It is not the US anthem, it's the president's anthem. So using the US, so it's funny when you're complaining about your mandate and you're using like US as an analogy. Really? How much do you know about the US?
The political battle there is worse.
I just put that out for context.
So it makes a lot of sense.
These activists put out things, and because you don't know, you find it interesting and start an argument. When if you just Google, you will calm down immediately and not enter the argument. But,
so can I actually emphasize on that? Sorry, before I lose that. So where you're going to is because they put in media literacy. We lack media literacy greatly in this country. What does media literacy mean? I can wake up today, create a blog, and everything I write is valuable and should be spread as valid information, right? However, someone with media literacy will understand that this is not a verifiable blog. I am not going to pass on the information in this blog. That's media literacy. And media literacy media illiteracy rather, is one of our biggest problem, because an activist that probably has not even gone to school and is behind the computer should not be the one telling you anything whatsoever. That's why if you ever schooled abroad, you find that A lot, when you're writing your essays, you have to put verifiable sources. The BBC is a verifiable source. If you go and put Guardian, it's not verifiable. If you go and put Lover, your work, they will mark it.
Aisha, how can you not mention Bella Niger at this part?
Even Bella Niger is not verifiable. So media literacy is so key, and you need to understand that. So media illiteracy is our problem. So you see that we have a lot of problems.
No, I tell you, you know the funny thing? We also have this, we term it part of political illiteracy. And the way we term it, why we term it that is that we've noticed something with Nigerians. If you support, for example, PDP,
yeah,
anything that is non-PDP, you don't even verify, you don't care, you attack it. Anything that is non-Labour Party, you don't verify, you attack it. Anything that is non-APC, you don't verify, you attack it. And that's what we've become as Nigerians. And I'll be honest, even in this class, after we told you there are 18 political parties, somebody said 90 something when we were talking about political parties. But no problem, we let that go. That was 2019. But now, there are 18 political parties. We know where we are supposed to be headed as Nigerians. We've done the elections. Leave the elections alone. We are now in governance. What are you sitting down to care about in governance? Because one activist is shouting, state police, state police, state police. I will ask you one question. With the way state governors are managing things in Nigeria, you really want to give them police? There's the argument that if you look at the American code that you're calling, they actually started as local government police, then state police, then federal. So it's county, state, and federal. It comes from the ground up. Nigerians won't think about that. They will clamor for state police. When the state police is not enough, they will now clamor for LG police. Why do you go around in circles? Because somebody said so. Now the new conversation is to go back into 1963, which is regionalism. Okay, you guys, kudos, eh? Next, Kuma tell us we should move back to parliamentary system. We are waiting for you. You just wake up and say regionalism. Everybody talks about federalism, and this is the question I always ask people. So you talk about no, government needs to relinquish more parts. Or governors need to relinquish one part. The parts that governors have relinquished or federal has relinquished, what has governors and what have local government chairmen done with it? Do you even know your local government chairman? Ali Mosho is collecting 1.1 billion in park allocation, and you people are looking at Tinubu. Let me tell you something. I lived in Abuja 24 years. My guy or my girl, if you want to look at anybody, if you think of the Nigerian president, see, if you see Aso Rock, you change your hand. You haven't followed local government chairman who has no immunity. You want to follow president, guys. You say Buhari has been a bad boy. Is he your mate? Try winning 6 votes in your locality now. Let's see. I brought for office, so I know what 6 votes is. And everybody expects people to pet them. Oh, you're Nigerians. You're the future of tomorrow. Yeah, Bob squat rubbish. You don't put in the effort, you're not going to amount to anything. I'm going to tell you for free. You won't amount to anything. Everybody are saying today, don't think it's because they joined APC. There are people that have been APC before APC was APC. They don't have position for today because they didn't build themselves. And that's the truth. So don't say because you want to just enter APC, man, you just move into enter APC now. If you easy, try them now. Let's see whether it will work for you. And wait, I'm seeing a question. Sorry, Aisha, you have made this thing so interesting that this thing.
It's okay.
So somebody is talking about NYPD police. Of course, New York is a state now. So of course it's controlled by the governor, yes. But there are counties in New York. Those counties are controlled by the local. You guys watch movie. What
so it's like the sheriff, the local government, the mayor.
What do you think sheriff is? You guys, the funny thing is these things are in front of you. I don't know how you guys can translate it, but you watch them. Maybe people are just watching the gunshot. I shot this guy in the afternoon. Shot this one in the stomach. That's what people are watching. But try to watch something else. Do you understand? Notice that there's that display of hierarchy across. So I think in a nutshell, I've interrupted Aisha's class. I will turn it to Aisha and Kule conversation. Well, Aisha, this is great. And I think we should continue this somewhere.
I would
Thank
love
you very
to.
much. It was a
I
pleasure.
love
Yeah,
to. And even just so I add to that, I also, if you ever are interested in your local government chairman, right, even with the subsidy that as the subsidy removal, just know that your local government chairman allocation has actually increased, and it's for most it has doubled, right? So now you still need to ask them, because that subsidy money is actually going to local government chairman, and trust me, it's there with them. So it's actually doubled. So thank you so much, Kunle. That's a very, that's very notable point. And I think you hit a lot of it in the head, with some of the facts of it, because the truth is that we have a lot of work to do. And ultimately, it's what we are still saying boils down to what I've been saying. The solution starts with us. We are the solution. The change starts with me. The change starts with you, right? We need to be. We are not in Nigeria. We've not seen the Nigeria I want to see yet, but we need to start being a reflection of that Nigeria, as if that Nigeria is here already.
Yeah.
Singapore, you are not allowed to chew gum. Actually, if you even carry chewing gum to Singapore, they would, they will confiscate it. You can be arrested, right? So we need to start living like that Nigeria is here already. And that means trashing those items. You don't just drive in your car, you throw it out. Start living like that Nigeria is right now. And like I said, I say it all the time. If you do not know how to handle the small resource, you cannot handle the big ones. Okay, so someone is asking a question about the local government allocation. Does the allocation go into the personal account of the incumbent LG chairperson, or there's an account in the name of local government, which is so nobody can have it. Nobody has money in their personal. You cannot get any public funds in your personal account. So these are the things that you all need to read up on. We can't be ignore the fact that
Aisha, as you're answering that question, you know why my skill is falling? We have a whole module on local government, and this was defined fully. But Nigerians now, you want to hide something from a black man, put it on Zoom that they are not discussing or abusing Nigeria. They will lose focus.
So yes, you can't, no public funds is allowed to, come into a personal account. So it's so some way local government chairman. So if you go there, you have your chairman's office, like maybe, I don't know what they're called. Is it the wards or something? One of these LCDA office and all that. And most of the people in that offices are actually civil servants. So civil servants are actually in different local governments as well. They actually work in local governments. And the chairman is like the mini governor. She does that. So nothing can go into their personal account. But however, local government chairman can't really operate anything without the council manager. I think they're called CM, the councillors or the council managers, and they're called CMs anyway. So they can't really do any of that. Yes, without them. So they are civil servants. There you go. They are civil servants. So no, it doesn't come into their direct accounts. No political appointee is allowed to collect any money into their direct account. EFCC will pick them up straight away.
Okay,
so that's the reality.
Thank you very much.
So just to sum up, right? Let's start with the man in the mirror, right? Maybe I will share a personal story. I wasn't, I actually came up in my for my first degree. So I have, I think 3 degrees, no, 2 degrees. My first degree actually had a second class lower. And that was because I was very distracted with personal life. Right. And I also even remember in secondary school, one or two teachers had said that I'm not going to amount to nothing or this and that, even, and what I always did was I always beat the narrative. And when I came out with that in university, I didn't like that because I know that let me tell you the truth, nobody's born smart either. You can't train to be smart. I hate to break it to you. You can't train to be smart. And that means educating yourself and being informed. So I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted to speak right. I knew I wanted to write right. I knew I wanted to be so good. These Asian guys can't compete with me. Anyway, so I did my second degree. I came out with a distinction. So you see how far apart that is, right? A distinction. Because I just knew that if I'm committed with the time, if I went out of my way to do the readings, that I did, if I went to educate myself on Singapore, on Nigeria's history, if we all sit here and ask you guys how many presidents of Nigeria had, how many military leaders of Nigeria had, let's list them from beginning to the end. We might not be able to do that, right? But I can, because I've gone back to the beginning to inform myself so I'm not misled. I've gone back to build my own narratives and to read research. So if you even go on ResearchGate, you find a lot of my studies there because I've taken time to understand. I've read about the different, what people have brought forward aside democracy, like what is the different perspective that maybe we shouldn't work with democracy, populism, so many things because I've informed myself, As a result, pardon my French, nobody can bullshit me, right? And also I'm able to talk from that context because in my idle time, I have gone to learn. And I've joined classes like what Electoral College is doing right now, just to learn, to build my perspective, to shape my perspective. And every time I find myself hungry for more, I go and read up on more. And that's where we should be, especially as young people, as active citizens, that's where we should be. Going to read for more. Because why? The system is not teaching us. Now let's teach ourselves. So let's do more. Not, let's not be lazy Nigerians. Let's push ahead our own mind, our own thoughts. So we are not bullshitted. So you understand. You can even do it whilst having fun. Join your social groups, join social networks. You can do it whilst having fun. But nobody should tell you that you are illiterate in a certain topic. Never, ever let it. You should be competing with the Chinese, with the Asians. You are that smart as well. Because they prepare their people for that. If no one is preparing you for that, prepare yourself. You owe it to yourself. So go out, get knowledge, get information, and you find that from there, in your ability to be resilient, to persevere, to be consistent, lots of new opportunities will come your way. People will call you to places you've never been. But let me tell you, the one thing is that they will not call you to places if you are not sharp enough. Be ready to sit in that room. Act like you're in that room already. Act like you're being asked the tough questions. I remember when I'll go home from school, I'll walk home from school and I'll be practicing speaking, public speaking at the age of 13, 14, with a mic, using my pen as a mic, and I'll be walking home. That's how it works. Take that time, right? Trust, build yourself. Build yourself. A lot of things online are free now, and you have the internet. Build yourself. Don't let anybody tell you what you're not. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aishat. Very insightful. You dragged Edie into the gist, and we can go on and on about leadership. Thank you very much.
That's good. I like that.
It was very impactful, and we still have people in class. We've gone way beyond our time. Thank you for being here. I'll ask everybody to unmute and say thank you to our facilitator for today. Just say thank you to her.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for this impactful class.
Thank you, Aisha.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much,
Ma. It was really impactful. God bless you, man.
Really impactful.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Down.
Okay, thank you very much. Charlie, Lisa, are there any notices before I close the class?
No, none. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Miss Aishat. This was a beautiful and interesting and engaging class. We look forward to having more of you in the subsequent cohorts.
No problem. Thank you so much, guys. If you have any questions, please just reach out to me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. I'm always happy to share my thoughts and knowledge, and so nobody knows it all. We're all learning.
Yeah.
So please hit me up, no problem.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. exactly. Thank you. See you tomorrow.